I am Professor Marewa Glover. I am presenting Vaping as an off-ramp from smoking, the final results of our 4-year longitudinal qualitative study of New Zealand adults who had no near-term intent to stop smoking. New Zealand has a goal to reduce smoking prevalence to 5% or below by the end of 2025. Vaping was legalised in August 2020. Vaping has been promoted as a cessation tool or an off-ramp for adults who smoke. Our study investigated the factors undermining vaping as a robust off-ramp. We regularly conducted semi-structured phone interviews with participants starting in June 2020 and going through to March 2024. We asked them about their smoking and vaping status at each interview and their attitudes towards an experience of vaping. Due to early withdrawals of 62 individuals enrolled, this analysis is based on 60 participants. The participants were diverse. At baseline, they ranged in age from 19 to 81. 35 were female, 23 were male, and 2 identified as non-binary. About half were New Zealand Europeans, and almost half were Māori or Pacific Island people. At enrolment, 49 of the participants exclusively smoked, and 11 smoked and vaped. At the final study interview, 14 participants had been lost to follow-up, 26 still smoked, including 7 who also vaped, 33%, had discontinued smoking. We analysed the transitions from smoking to vaping and back again over time. Based on the last interview with a participant before they were lost to follow-up or when the study ended, 30%, did not change from exclusively smoking. 3%, remained both smoking and vaping. The remainder, 67%, reported between 1 and 6 changes in their smoking-vaping status over the study period. This figure shows the smoking status trajectories over time. In the upper box are the 49 who exclusively smoked at enrolment. The different colours show how they moved between smoking and vaping and to quitting. The number to the right hand of the lines represents the number of people in that trajectory group. The top line shows that 18 people continued to smoke up to their last interview. The lower box shows the 11 people who were smoking and vaping at the beginning of the study and the trajectories that they took. The variance in the lines shows that the trajectories were not uniform. The predominant initial transition was to move from smoking to both smoking and vaping. 17% switched from smoking to exclusively vaping, and 7% went from smoking to quitting, bypassing vaping. After these initial observed changes, 37%, reported further switches in their smoking status to vaping, back to both smoking and vaping or quit, etc. There were 4 overarching categories of barriers to switching. They appeared in this order over time. The initial barrier was distance, that vaping was just too different from smoking. Doubt was the second barrier, and past those 2 barriers, if a participant had tried vaping, difficulty. For example, that vaping was too inconvenient. That was the next category. The 4th theme was diluted. That is, that vaping wasn't as satisfying as smoking, maybe because the nicotine was too low for them. However, we observed that many participants tried vaping or persisted with vaping across the years, suggesting that the barriers were not insurmountable over time. The in-depth qualitative insight collected over 4 years is a particular strength of this study. We also had a very high retention rate. In conclusion, the results support the assertion that vaping is an off-ramp from smoking, but it is being undermined by the identified barriers. Of concern, vaping was far less accessible to participants aged 55 and over compared to the younger people. Misinformation about the risk of vaping was a predominant barrier. To ensure that all subgroups, particularly older people and people with low interest in smoking cessation, can benefit from the health gains of stopping smoking, we need to identify interventions that can effectively counter the misinformation about vaping. You can read more about our Voices of the 5% study and the participant stories on our website.